Today I'm talking about Vladimir's Blues, a piece by Max Richter, and if you've listened to this piece, you probably know it's pretty simple. And I was even trying to decide whether I wanted to make a video about this, and I think actually its simpleness is the point, and I think that is the thing to look at and think about and pull lessons from. So if you look on Spotify, this piece has 118 million listens, which is quite a bit. Max Richter is probably the only modern composer that I feel like people who don't listen to classical music have listened to his music. So first off, just a little bit of the structure of the piece. It's just 4 chords: F sharp minor to D and A major and E major. And that's it. It keeps repeating that the whole time. Now, what is really notable to me is that does not sound like great raw material to me for a piece. You know, if you're like, that's like, I'm not very interested. But he did something with it, and he did some very small things that I think make this whole piece work. So the first thing is, instead of just plopping down the chord, he did this super simple pattern. So super simple. All he's doing, like if you take the chord, and he's doing like the first and third note, and then the second and fourth. Super simple, but I think that goes a long way in making this piece a little bit more interesting. The other thing he does is the bass comes in. So what's really notable about that is the bass part is not lined up with the chord change, so it's staggered. So I think that's another one of those small pieces that this has the potential to be a very boring piece, but I think there's these small tweaks he makes that keeps them interesting. So one other thing he does is the bass, as the piece progresses, is not just staying on the root of the chord. So like the first chord, this F sharp minor, he comes in on the C sharp in the bass. And then the next chord, D major, it goes to A, so the fifth of the chord. And as the piece progresses, when those chords come back, it's a new bass clef, a bass note. So I think those 3 pieces of the super simple chord pattern, the staggered bass part, and the bass changing are the 3 things that make this piece successful. I think the other thing is, I think the classical music world has a problem with simplicity, and it almost feels like you're allowed to be 12 tonal, there's no limit, there's no too far for anything, but I feel like, I messed it up. I feel like doing this for your song, or your piece, I should say, is not allowed, at least with a lot of people. And simplicity really resonates with people much more than complexity. I think ideally you have some of both, but I think as a classical composer, really taking the lesson that there's a time for simplicity And I think the emotional impact of this piece is undeniable. And I think a more complex, more active expression couldn't touch that emotional place. The other thing I wanted to mention about this piece is there's actually no melody. So it's just the chords with bass notes, and there's no melody. And I think it's easy to forget that you don't have to have a melody. We're definitely in a very super melodic centric music culture. That's not true in every place in the world, like specifically like traditional African music. And it doesn't feel like it needs a melody. And there's definitely a precedent for not having a melody. So specifically this type of music, the precedent sounds like Philip Glass. A lot of Max Richter's music reminds me of him. So he does, stuff like, and that's just like, I'm just playing a C major 7 up and down. But even further back, Bach's Prelude in C, that piece, there's no melody. It's just, he's just going up and down chord tones. So that's another notable piece that's missing, and though it still works without that.